The research vessel Gentle Current drifted quietly through the outer system, its sensors scanning the surface of a small moon below. Inside the ship, Tender of Gardens watched his crew work with quiet satisfaction. 20 scientists moved through the botanical labs, studying rare spore samples they had collected that morning. The mission was going well. 3 more days and they would return home with enough data to keep the universities busy for years. Were a peaceful species. They had evolved on a world with low gravity and few predators. Their bodies were small and fragile, their bones hollow like birds. They had never developed weapons or armies. Instead, they grew gardens and studied the living things of the universe. Violence made no sense to them. Tender of Gardens stretched his thin arms and checked the navigation display. The system they were exploring had no name yet, just a catalog number. It belonged to no one, claimed by no government. That made it perfect for research. No politics, no territorial disputes, just pure science. The alarm changed everything. The communications officer, listener of whispers, jerked upright at her station. Her large eyes went wide with fear. 3 ships had just appeared on the sensors, dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. Big ships, warships. Tender of Gardens felt his heart race. He moved to the sensor station and looked at the readings. The ships were, everyone in the galaxy knew about the Empire. They were raiders and slavers, a militaristic species that conquered weaker races and forced them into labor camps. They showed no mercy to anyone. The communication panel buzzed. A harsh voice filled the bridge, speaking the trade language most species used. "Vessel, this is Warclaw of the Empire. You will shut down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Your crew will surrender immediately. Resistance will result in the destruction of your ship." Tender of Gardens looked around his bridge. His crew stared back at him with terrified eyes. The Gentle Current had no weapons. It barely had shields, just enough to protect against radiation and micrometeorites. Against warships, they were helpless. "Please," Tender of Gardens said into the communication system. "We are scientists. We have no military value. We are just studying plant life. Let us leave in peace." Laughed, it was a cruel sound. "Your value is in your labor, Flower Tender. Your bodies may be weak, but you have clever fingers. You will work in our factories until you die. Now shut down your systems." The 3 ships moved closer. Their weapon ports were open, targeting systems locked on the Gentle Current. There was no escape. The ship was slow, designed for careful exploration, not running from predators. Listener of Whispers turned to Tender of Gardens. Her voice shook as she spoke. "Captain, I have an idea. It may not work, but we have nothing to lose." "Tell me," Tender of Gardens said. "The human territories are 3 days from here. The humans are new to the galactic community. First contact was never completed because the initial surveys classified them as dangerous. They come from a death world, a planet so hostile that survival shaped them into something the galaxy has never seen before." Tender of Gardens knew about humans. Every species had received the warnings. Earth was a world of extreme gravity, lethal predators, and deadly diseases. The creatures that evolved there were strong, aggressive, and unpredictable. The official recommendation was to avoid contact until more was known about them. "What good will humans do us?" Tender of Gardens asked. "They are 3 days away. We will be captured in less than an hour." "We send them a distress call," Listener of Whispers said. "On all frequencies, including theirs. Maybe they will hear it. Maybe they will respond." "And if they do respond, what then? They may be as dangerous as the—" Listener of Whispers pointed at the ships on the display. "They cannot be worse than what is already here. And Captain, we have children in the botanical section. Young ones on their first research mission. If we are taken to labor camps, they will not survive." Tender of Gardens closed his eyes. The thought of the young ones in hands made his decision easy. "Send the distress call, all frequencies. Make it clear we are non-combatants under attack. Include our coordinates." Listener of Whispers worked quickly. Her fingers danced across the controls, crafting a message in multiple languages. She made sure to emphasize they were peaceful researchers with children aboard. The message went out on every channel the ship could broadcast, including the frequency bands reserved for human space. Outside, the ships closed in. Energy weapons charged with an ominous hum that the sensors could detect. Boarding craft launched from the vessels, small ships filled with armed warriors. Tender of Gardens ordered his crew to the botanical labs. The growth chambers there had thick walls to maintain stable environments. They might provide some protection, at least for a few minutes. The crew moved quickly, gathering the young ones and hiding behind the large plant containers. The first boarding craft attached to the gentle current's hull with a metallic clang. Cutting tools began slicing through the outer airlock. The sound echoed through the ship like a death knell. Then something impossible happened. The communication panel crackled to life. A new voice spoke, deep and calm, using perfect trade language. "Gentle current, this is Captain of the United Human Systems ship Relentless. We have received your distress call and have your position locked. Hold your position. Help is coming. Repeat, help is coming." Tender of Gardens stared at the communication panel. His translator must have malfunctioned. The nearest human outpost was 3 days away at maximum speed. Even if they left immediately, the gentle current would be long gone, its crew already enslaved. "Human ship," Tender of Gardens said, his voice breaking. "We appreciate your response, but you cannot reach us in time. We will be boarded within minutes." There was a pause. Then Captain spoke again, and this time there was something in his voice that made Tender of Gardens shiver. It was not anger or fear. It was absolute certainty. "Gentle current, listen to me carefully. We are already moving. We will be there in 4 hours. You have children on that ship. We will not let anything happen to them. Do whatever you need to do to survive until we arrive. Barricade yourselves, hide, fight if you must, just stay alive. We are coming." The channel closed. Tender of Gardens looked at his crew. 4 hours. Could they possibly hold out for 4 hours against warriors? The cutting tools were already halfway through the airlock door. But something had changed. The human captain had not hesitated. He had not asked for payment or debated politics. He had simply said help was coming and expected to be believed. For the first time since the ships appeared, Tender of Gardens felt something other than despair. He felt hope. "Barricade the entrances," he ordered his crew. "Use everything we have, growth chambers, equipment crates, anything heavy. We need to hold them off for 4 hours." His crew moved with new purpose. They knew the odds were against them. They knew humans might be just as dangerous as but they also knew that someone, somewhere, was coming to help. In the darkness of space, 3 warships continued their attack, unaware that they had captains stood on the bridge of the UHS Relentless when the distress call came through. He was reviewing patrol schedules, bored with the routine of border duty, when the communication officer interrupted him. "Captain, we have an emergency broadcast on multiple frequencies. It is in the language, but the translation software is processing it now." Moved to the communication station. He had been in the military for 15 years, ever since his sister died in a pirate raid on a civilian transport. He knew the sound of desperation when he heard it. The translation came through. A gentle voice, shaking with fear, describing an attack by warships, a research vessel with no weapons, scientists and children trapped with nowhere to run, a plea for help from anyone who could hear. "Did not hesitate. Get me Admiral Grant at Fleet Command, priority channel, right now." The communication officer worked fast. Within seconds, Admiral Lisa Grant's face appeared on the screen. She was a stern woman with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. "This better be important. I was in a meeting with the diplomatic corps." "Ma'am, we have a situation," played the distress call. He watched Grant's expression change as she listened. When the captain mentioned children, Grant's jaw tightened. "Where are they?" Grant asked. 3 days away at normal speed, ma'am. But if we push the new slipstream drives past their safety limits, I can get there in 4 hours, maybe less." "How many ships do you need?" Pulled up a tactical display. "They have 3 warships on site. Unknown if more are coming. I want to take the entire border patrol fleet. 12 destroyers, 4 cruisers, and both carrier groups." Grant raised an eyebrow. "That is a lot of firepower for a rescue mission, Captain." "Ma'am, we are talking about first contact with we are talking about civilians under attack, and we are talking about sending a message to every raider and slaver in this sector. I want overwhelming force. I want to make sure this never happens again." Grant was quiet for a moment. Normal protocol required 72 hours of diplomatic clearance before entering unclaimed space with military vessels. But Grant had not become an admiral by following rules when lives were at stake. "You have authorization," she said. "Take the fleet. I will scramble the 5th Expeditionary Group from station as backup. They will be 6 hours behind you. Make this count. Show them what humanity stands for." "Yes, ma'am." The channel closed, turned to his bridge crew. Sound General Quarters, contact all ships in the Border Patrol fleet. We leave in 10 minutes. Push the slipstream drives to 140% capacity. I do not care if we burn out the engines, we have people to save. The Relentless came alive with activity. Throughout Outpost Pinnacle, 12 destroyers and 4 cruisers received their orders. Captains woke sleeping crews. Engineers prepared the experimental slipstream drives for dangerous overload. Marines loaded equipment for possible boarding actions. In the communication center, Officer Martinez worked frantically on the language protocols. The translation software was crude, designed for simple exchanges. He needed to refine it so they could communicate directly with the gentle current. He had 4 hours to become fluent in an alien language. In the medical bay, Dr. Laura studied every piece of data they had on physiology. It was not much. A few scans from long-range probes, some biological samples traded through intermediaries. She learned that were fragile, with bones that could break from impacts that would barely bruise a human. She prepared medical supplies and hoped it would be enough. Marine Commander Harper gathered his boarding teams in the armory, 200 Marines, the best fighters in the fleet. Harper was a big man with scars from a dozen battles. He looked at his troops and spoke clearly. "Listen up, we are going into a hostage situation. The targets are raiders holding a civilian research crew. Our priority is to get those civilians out alive. We do not know what condition they will be in. We do not know what kind of resistance we will face. But I know this, we do not leave anyone behind. We go in hard, we go in fast, and we bring those people home. Understood?" "Yes, sir," the Marines shouted in unison. In engineering, Chief Stevens monitored the slipstream drive systems across the fleet. The new drives were powerful but untested at such high capacities. Pushing them to 140% could cause catastrophic failures. The engines could explode, stranding them in deep space. She ran the calculations again, 4 hours of overload. The risk was significant, but she thought about children trapped on a ship, waiting for rescue that might never come. She adjusted the power flow, balanced the output across all systems, and prayed her calculations were correct. "Engineering to bridge," she said over the communication system. "Drives are ready. We can maintain 140% for 4.5 hours before we risk burnout. After that, we are pushing our luck." His voice came back. "Understood. That gives us 30 minutes of margin. That is all we need." The fleet assembled in formation. 12 destroyers formed the outer perimeter. 4 heavy cruisers took positions in the center. 2 carrier groups, each with fighters and bombers, flanked the formation. It was enough firepower to level a small moon. For one research vessel under attack, it was absurd overkill. Did not care. He stood on his bridge and looked at the fleet display. Every ship showed green, ready for departure. Every crew member knew the risks. Every single person had volunteered for this mission. "All ships," said over the fleet-wide channel. "This is Captain. In a few minutes we will push our drives beyond safe limits to reach people we have never met, people who called for help because they had no one else to turn to. Some of you may think this is crazy. You might be right, but here is what I know: when someone calls for help, we answer. When children are in danger, we run toward the threat, not away from it. That is what makes us human. That is what makes us different. Today we show the galaxy who we are. Today we show them that humanity keeps its promises." The fleet acknowledged. Engines powered up, building to levels that made the ships vibrate. Space around Outpost Pinnacle began to ripple as the slipstream drives created tears in reality. "All ships engage slipstream drives on my mark," said. 3, 2, 1 mark. The fleet vanished in a flash of blue light, hurtling through space at speeds that physics. Inside the Relentless, the crew felt the ship groan under the strain. Bulkheads creaked. Warning alarms beeped as systems redlined. Sat in his command chair, watching the countdown timer. 3 hours and 57 minutes to target. Behind him, Martinez continued working on language protocols. Laura prepared medical equipment. Harper briefed his Marines on ship layouts. Every member of the crew focused on their jobs, knowing that somewhere ahead, people were fighting for their lives. People who trusted that help was coming. Opened a channel to the gentle current. He did not know if they could still hear him. He did not know if they were even still alive, but he broadcast anyway. "Gentle current, this is Captain. We are coming. Hold on." In the darkness between stars, the human fleet raced forward. They pushed their ships to the breaking point. They risked their lives for strangers. They did it without hesitation, without debate, without question. Because that is what humans do. The human fleet dropped out of slipstream drive at the edge of the system like a hammer falling from the sky. Their arrival was not subtle. 12 destroyers, 4 cruisers, and 2 carrier groups burst into normal space with reactor signatures that lit up every sensor for light years. It was a deliberate show of force, a statement written in energy and metal. Stood on the bridge of the Relentless and looked at the tactical display. The 3 warships were clustered around the gentle current like predators around wounded prey. The ship showed heavy damage, hull breaches, offline systems, and fatting power readings. Martinez opened a channel to the ships, all frequencies. I want everyone in this system to hear what I am about to say. Martinez worked his controls. Channel open, sir. Kept his voice calm and professional. Vessels, this is Captain of the United Human Systems Fleet. You are ordered to cease all hostile actions immediately. Release the vessel and withdraw from this system. You have 3 minutes to comply. On the lead warship, Warclaw stared at his sensor display in disbelief. 12 human warships, for a single research vessel. It made no sense. He had heard rumors about humans, about their Deathworld origins and strange behavior. But this was beyond anything he had imagined. He contacted his fleet commander for orders. The response was quick and predictable. Test their resolve. Humans are traders and explorers. They will not start a war over aliens they have never met. Hold your position. Opened a channel to the human fleet. He made his voice as threatening as possible. This system is territory by right of presence. You have no authority here, mammals. Leave now or we will add your ships to our collection of trophies. Listened to the response and felt a cold anger settle over him. He had seen too many bullies in his career. They all sounded the same, all made the same assumptions. They always thought their victims were alone. Martinez, target their weapon systems with precision fire. Stevens, I need firing solutions that disable but do not destroy. Harper, get your boarding teams ready. I want those off that ship in 10 minutes. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, targeting computers locked onto the ships, railgun batteries charged, torpedo tubes loaded with plasma warheads designed for surgical strikes. All ships, said over the fleet channel, you are authorized to fire, disable those vessels. The human fleet opened fire with devastating precision. Railgun rounds, traveling at a fraction of light speed, tore through shield generators like paper. The shields flickered and died, leaving the warships naked to follow up attacks. Plasma torpedoes streaked across the void, each one programmed with specific targeting data. The torpedoes struck engine sections, melting the drive cores without breaching the hulls. Electronic warfare suites from the human cruisers crashed computer systems, shutting down weapons and life support. In 90 seconds, all 3 warships went dark, floating dead in space. On the bridge of his ship, watched in horror as his displays died one by one. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. His weapons officer tried to return fire, but the targeting computer was crashed. His engineer reported all engines offline. His shields were gone. What just happened? Shouted. His tactical officer stared at the manual displays. They hit us with everything at once, sir, but they were careful. No shots penetrated our armor, no damage to crew areas. They disabled us without killing anyone. Felt fear creep up his spine. The humans had the firepower to destroy his ships completely. Instead, they had surgically removed every offensive capability while leaving his crew alive. That took skill. That took control. That took a level of military precision the Empire had never encountered. His voice came over the communication channel again. Vessels, you now have 2 minutes to abandon the ship or we will remove you by force. This is your final warning. Inside the gentle current, the boarding party felt their ships go silent. The vibration of engines stopped. The hum of power systems died. Through the hull, they could see human ships moving into position, their weapon ports glowing with ready charges. Screamed orders to his warriors aboard the ship. Retreat! Get back to the ships now. The warriors ran. They abandoned their cutting tools, their weapons, their plans. They scrambled into escape pods and launched back toward their dead warships. Within minutes, the gentle current was clear of invaders. Watch the last warrior leave the ship. Harper, you are clear for boarding. Get our people in there. Marine Commander Harper led the rescue team personally. Two shuttles launched from the Relentless, moving toward the gentle current. The Marines wore full combat armor, weapons ready, but Harper had given clear orders. This was a rescue, not an assault. Show strength, but offer kindness. The shuttles docked with the ship. Harper and his team moved through the corridors carefully. The ship was damaged, with exposed wiring and cracked bulkheads. They found the crew barricaded in the botanical labs, huddled behind overturned equipment. Harper stopped at the entrance. He removed his helmet slowly, showing his face. He was a big man, over 6 feet tall and heavily muscled. He knew he probably looked terrifying to these small, fragile aliens. He tried to smile in a way that seemed friendly rather than threatening. "My name is Commander Harper," he said, hoping the translation software had built was working. "We are here to help. Is anyone injured?" Tender of Gardens stepped forward on shaking legs. He stared at this human, this creature from a world so dangerous that merely surviving there made one a warrior. The human was huge, easily 3 times his size. The human's armor was covered in weapons and tools designed for violence. But the human's eyes were kind. "You came," Tender of Gardens whispered. "You actually came for us." Harper nodded. "You called for help, we came, that is what we do." He looked around at the crew. They were so small, so delicate. He could see their bones through their thin skin. Some of them had injuries from the attack, cuts and bruises that probably hurt more than they would on a human. "My medical officer is Dr. Laura. She's going to check everyone for injuries. Is that okay?" Tender of Gardens nodded. He watched as more humans entered the botanical lab. They moved carefully, aware of how much space they took up. They spoke softly, trying not to frighten anyone. Laura approached with her medical scanner. She was smaller than Harper, but still much larger than any. She knelt down to be at eye level with Tender of Gardens. "I need to scan you for injuries," she said gently. "This will not hurt. I just need to understand your biology so I can help." She ran the scanner over Tender of Gardens and felt her stomach drop. The readout showed bones so fragile they would shatter from impacts that humans would barely notice. Internal organs with almost no protection. A circulatory system that could fail from stress levels humans dealt with daily. These people were so vulnerable. How had they survived in the galaxy at all? Laura moved through the crew methodically. She treated cuts with specialized bandages. She stabilized a broken arm with a gentle splint. She gave pain medication carefully calibrated for their metabolism. Every action was precise, controlled, aware that too much pressure could cause more harm than good. The young watched the humans with wide eyes. They had been told humans were dangerous, violent, unpredictable. But these humans were being so careful, so gentle. One of the young ones, a child named Seeker of Truth, approached Harper cautiously. "Are you really from a death world?" the child asked. Harper smiled. "Yes, Earth is a dangerous place, but that is why we are good at protecting others. We know how to fight, we know how to survive, and we know how important it is to help people who cannot fight for themselves." Outside opened a channel to the ships. His voice was cold and final. "Warclaw, you have attacked a peaceful research vessel. You have threatened children. You have violated every principle of civilized behavior. Consider yourselves fortunate that you are still alive. That is more mercy than you showed your victims." He paused, letting the words sink in. "This is your only warning. They are now under human protection. Any species that threatens them answers to us. Spread this message to your empire. Humanity does not start fights, but we end them. Now get out of this system before I change my mind about letting you leave." The ships, running on emergency power, began limping away. Sat in his command chair, humiliated and terrified. The humans had destroyed his attack in 90 seconds. They had disabled 3 warships without losing a single fighter, and they had done it all to protect people they had never met. What kind of species does that? On the gentle current, Tender of Gardens walked with Captain through the damaged corridors. The human captain had come aboard personally to assess the situation. "We will repair your ship," said. "Our engineers are already working on plans. It will take a few days, but we will make it better than it was before." "Why?" Tender of Gardens asked. "Why do all this for us? You do not know us. We have nothing to offer you. Why risk your lives?" Stopped walking. He looked down at the small alien with honest eyes. "Because U.S. news of the incident spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Trading ships carried the story from station to station. Diplomatic channels buzzed with reports and analysis. Within 3 days, every major civilization in known space had heard about what happened in that unnamed system. A minor research vessel sent a distress call. Humans responded with a battle fleet, 12 warships for 23 civilians. The numbers made no sense to most species. The calculations were all wrong. The cost-benefit ratio was absurd. On the Galactic Council station, representatives from 100 worlds gathered for an emergency session. The council chamber was a massive dome filled with seats designed for different body types. Methane breathers sat in sealed sections. Low-gravity species floated in reduced G fields. Everyone had come to discuss the human problem. Counselor of the consortium called the session to order. They were an ancient race, cautious and diplomatic. They had maintained peace through careful negotiation for thousands of years. The human action disturbed them deeply. "We are here to discuss an unprecedented situation," said, his voice translating through the chamber's systems. "The humans have deployed military force in unclaimed space without diplomatic clearance. They engaged vessels without provocation beyond a distress call from a species they had never met. This sets a dangerous precedent for galactic stability." Murmurs of agreement came from several sections. The militaristic species saw humans as competition. The trading empires worried about unpredictable actors disrupting commerce. The isolationist civilizations feared humanity would interfere in their affairs. But not everyone agreed. "Counselor," a soft voice interrupted. Tender of Gardens stood in the section, his small frame barely visible against the large seat. "May I speak?" Gestured permission. The council recognizes Tender of Gardens of the delegation. Tender of Gardens stepped to the speaker's platform. Around him, representatives from powerful civilizations watched with curiosity. He was nobody important, just a research captain from a minor species. But his testimony mattered. "Honored counselors," he began, his voice shaking slightly. "I commanded the gentle current when we were attacked by raiders. We are a peaceful people. We have no military, no weapons, no way to defend ourselves. When they came, we knew we were going to die or worse, be enslaved." He paused, remembering the terror of that moment. "We sent a distress call on all frequencies, including human channels. We had no real hope. The humans were days away. We were just desperate." The chamber was quiet. Everyone was listening. 4 hours later, Captain and his fleet arrived. They did not ask for payment. They did not demand territorial concessions or trade agreements. They simply came to help. They disabled 3 warships in 90 seconds without killing anyone. They rescued my crew. They repaired our ship. They asked for nothing in return. Tender of Gardens looked around the chamber. "The council speaks of precedent and stability. I understand these concerns. But I ask you this, what kind of galaxy do we want? One where civilians can be attacked with impunity because responding would be economically inefficient, or one where those who call for help can trust that someone will answer?" He sat down. The chamber erupted in debate. Ambassador watched from the human delegation box. She was a former Marine who had transitioned to diplomatic service after 20 years of military duty. She had been chosen for this position specifically because she understood both military necessity and political reality. Counselor called for order. When the chamber quieted, he addressed the human delegation directly. "Ambassador, the council must express concern over your government's use of overwhelming military force. Sending 12 warships to rescue 1 civilian vessel seems excessive. Can you explain this decision?" Stood and walked to the speaker's platform. She moved with the confident posture of someone who had faced worse things than political debates. "Counselor, the council seems troubled that we sent too much help. I find that interesting. Tell me, what would have been the appropriate amount of force to deploy when children were being threatened by armed raiders?" Paused, caught off guard by the question. "The council is not suggesting you should have sent no help. We are questioning the proportionality of the response." "Proportionality," repeated. "Should we have sent just enough ships to barely win? Just enough force to ensure heavy casualties on both sides? Or should we have sent overwhelming force to guarantee success with minimal loss of life, including the lives of our enemies who are still alive and will face justice?" She let that sink in. "Counselor, humanity operates on a simple principle. When civilians are in danger, we do not calculate the minimum viable response. We ensure absolute success. We send enough force that failure is not an option. Some call that excessive. We call it keeping our promises." War Master of the Empire rose from his section. He was a large, armored being with scars from countless battles. The humans attacked our vessels in unclaimed space. This is an act of war. The Council must condemn this aggression and force them to return our ships. Turn to face him. War Master, your vessels attacked a civilian research ship, threatened to enslave the crew, and attempted to kidnap children. We have recordings of your commander's threats. Would you like me to play them for the Council? His mandibles clicked in anger. That vessel was in space we were claiming. They had no right to be there. You cannot claim space retroactively after finding victims there, said coldly. That is not territorial expansion. That is hunting. And humanity has a very clear policy on hunters who target the defenseless. She played the recording of the attack. The Council listened to his threats, his promises of slavery and forced labor. When it finished, several counselors were visibly disturbed. If the Empire defines protecting innocents as aggression, continued, then yes, we are very aggressive, and we are just getting started. The chamber fell silent. The implication was clear. Humanity had drawn a line. Anyone who crossed it would face consequences. After the public session ended, Counselor met with in a private chamber. Other counselors joined them, representatives from peaceful species who saw opportunity rather than threat. You have made enemies today, Ambassador, said quietly. The Empire has allies. They will not forget this humiliation. Met his eyes without flinching. Good, let them remember. Let every raider, slaver, and pirate in this galaxy know that if they threaten innocent lives, humanity will find them. We will stop them, and we will make sure they never try again. A counselor representing a species of peaceful traders spoke up. Ambassador, my people have suffered from raiders for generations. We have no military strength. The Council offers sympathy but no real protection. If what we saw is truly human policy, would you extend that protection to other species? Consider the question carefully. This was the moment that would define humanity's role in the galaxy. We are not mercenaries. We will not fight your wars for profit or help you conquer territory. But if you are peaceful people being threatened by those who prey on the weak, yes, we will help. That is who we are. Several counselors exchanged glances. This was unprecedented. A powerful military force offering protection without demanding subjugation in return. Back on Earth, Admiral Lisa Grant held a press conference at Fleet Command. The room was packed with reporters from human worlds and alien observers monitoring the broadcast. I want to address concerns about our military deployment to rescue the research vessel, Grant said. Some have called our response excessive. I disagree. When we received that distress call, we heard exactly what it was, people in desperate danger with no one else to help them. She paused, letting her words carry weight. Humanity's military doctrine is simple. We are not conquerors. We do not seek to expand our territory or subjugate other species. But we will not stand by while innocents suffer. Any government, any organization, any individual that preys on the weak and defenseless should know this. We are watching, and we will respond. A reporter asked, Admiral, what if this leads to war with the Empire or their allies? Grant's expression hardened. Then we will fight that war, not because we want to, but because some things are worth fighting for. The protection of innocent lives is one of those things. We will not be intimidated into abandoning our principles. The broadcast reached across human space and beyond. On colony worlds and space stations, humans watched their admiral speak with pride. In alien territories, governments and military commanders reassessed their understanding of human behavior. Most species fought for resources, territory, or glory. Humans fought for moral principles. They would defend strangers at great cost simply because it was right. This made them unpredictable, dangerous, and potentially the most disruptive force the galaxy had ever encountered. In the Empire capital, War Master met with his strategic council. They reviewed every recording of the human engagement, studying weapon capabilities, fleet tactics, and response times. Can we defeat them? Asked. His chief strategist, a veteran of 50 campaigns, shook his head slowly. Not in conventional warfare, War Master. Their technology is comparable to ours, but their tactical precision is superior. More importantly, their motivation is different from any enemy we have faced. Explain. Most species fight until victory becomes too costly, then they negotiate. Humans fight to protect others. They will accept casualties we would consider unacceptable because they are not protecting their own interests. They are protecting their principles. You cannot negotiate with principles, War Master. 2 weeks after the rescue, the crew remained on Outpost Pinnacle while their ship underwent repairs. The humans had done more than fix the damage. Engineer Stevens and her team had upgraded every major system on the Gentle Current. New defensive shields, emergency beacon boosters, and basic point defense weapons that even pacifists could operate if absolutely necessary. Tender of Gardens walked through the hydroponics section of the human station with Captain. The facility reminded him of home, filled with growing plants and the smell of soil. It was a peaceful place, strange to find on a military outpost. "I still do not understand your species, Captain," Tender of Gardens said. "You barely knew we existed, yet you risked everything for us." Looked at the plants growing under artificial sunlight. "Earth is a harsh world. Predators, natural disasters, diseases that can kill in days. We survived because we protected each other. We refuse to leave anyone behind. It is not just our nature anymore. It is our identity. When we heard your distress call, every human who listened heard the same thing, people in danger who needed help. The rest was just logistics." "But the cost," Tender of Gardens protested. "The fuel, the wear on your ships, the risk to your crews. How do you justify such expense for strangers?" Smiled. "How do you put a price on doing the right thing? Some things are not about profit margins or political advantage. They are about who you want to be as a people. We want to be the kind of species that answers when someone calls for help." The government had sent an official delegation to negotiate with humanity. They arrived 3 days later, led by Keeper of Ancient Songs, a senior diplomat who had served for decades. Ambassador met them in a formal conference room. "We wish to propose a formal alliance," Keeper of Ancient Songs said. "The people offer our agricultural technology, our medical knowledge of genetic engineering, and our extensive botanical databases. In return, we ask for a mutual defense agreement." Listened carefully. "We appreciate the offer. We will gladly share defensive technology and maintain patrol routes through your space, but I need to be clear about our limitations. We are not mercenaries. We will not help you conquer territory or intimidate trade rivals. We protect the innocent. That is the line we will not cross." Keeper of Ancient Songs touched his hand gently, a gesture of respect and culture. "That is precisely why we trust you, Ambassador. Your warriors fight only when necessary and only to protect. This is rare in the galaxy. Most powerful species use their strength to dominate. You use yours to defend. That makes you unique." The alliance was formalized within a week. The territories would receive human military protection. In exchange, they shared technology and knowledge freely, but more importantly, they shared something else: hope. News of the human alliance spread quickly. Within a month, delegations from a dozen species approached humanity seeking similar arrangements. The traders, the scholars, the artists, all civilizations focused on knowledge and culture rather than military might. They had been vulnerable to raiders for centuries, paying tribute or losing ships regularly. Admiral Lisa Grant proposed a new framework, the Cooperative Defense Initiative. Member species would contribute resources, intelligence, and technological knowledge. In return, human fleets would maintain rapid response groups capable of reaching any member world within hours. It was not an empire. It was a protective coalition. Not everyone welcomed the change. The Empire and their allies saw humanity as a threat to their power structures. Aggressive species that had built their economies on conquest and raiding found their traditional targets suddenly protected. 6 months after the rescue, the Empire decided to test human resolve. They launched a raid on a trading hub, a busy station where merchants from across the galaxy exchanged goods. The commander, Fleet Master, believed humans would not defend every minor species in the galaxy. Surely they would focus on major allies and ignore smaller targets. He was catastrophically wrong. The station manager sent an automated distress signal the moment ships appeared. The message reached the nearest human rapid response group in seconds. Commander Harper, now leading a dedicated rescue fleet, received the alert while his ships were conducting training exercises. "All units cease exercises. We have a live situation. Forces attacking Station 7. 4 cruisers, estimated 200 raiders attempting to board. Civilian population approximately 5,000. Harper checked the distance calculations. "We can be there in 20 minutes. Time to show them that rescue was not a one-time event." Harper's fleet consisted of 6 destroyers, 2 cruisers, and a dedicated marine transport ship. It was smaller than the force that rescued the Gentle Current, but it was specifically designed for rapid intervention. The ships dropped into slipstream drive and raced toward the station. They arrived while forces were still in the landing phase. Harper did not bother with warnings or negotiations. His fleet emerged from slipstream drive already firing. Rail guns disabled engines with the first salvo. Electronic warfare crashed their computer systems. Fighter craft deployed from the cruisers, engaging boarding shuttles. Harper led the Marine response personally. His teams breached the station through emergency airlocks, moving to intercept raiders who had already entered the commercial sectors. The fighting was brief and decisive. Human Marines, trained for close-quarters combat, overwhelmed the warriors with superior tactics and equipment. The entire engagement lasted 18 minutes from arrival to complete surrender. The human fleet suffered minor damage to one destroyer. 3 Marines had non-critical injuries. The lost 4 ships disabled and 80 soldiers captured with non-lethal weapons. No civilians died. Harper stood on the station's command deck and opened a channel to the captured forces. "This is Commander Harper of the United Human Systems. Your raiders are in custody. Your ships are disabled. You will be turned over to authorities for trial, and you will deliver a message to your empire." He paused, making sure the recording was clear. Humanity's protection is not symbolic. It is real, immediate, and permanent. Any species that targets our allies will face immediate response. We do not negotiate with raiders. We do not accept tribute to look the other way. We stop you. Spread that message. Make sure everyone understands. The recording was transmitted across the galaxy within hours. Military analysts studied it carefully. The human response time was terrifying. 20 minutes from distress call to complete victory. That meant human rapid response groups were positioned throughout known space, ready to intervene at a moment's notice. The message was clear. Humanity had not merely helped thee as a one-time gesture. They had fundamentally changed their strategic posture to become galactic protectors. On the War Master watched the recording of the station battle for the 5th time. His strategic council sat in uncomfortable silence. "We have lost 4 more ships," his chief strategist reported. "Fleet Master is in custody facing trial for attempted piracy. Our intelligence reports indicate humans have at least 30 rapid response groups positioned throughout the core sectors. They can respond to any incident within hours." Felt the weight of centuries of military tradition pressing on him. The empire had been built on the conquest of weaker species. Raiding and slavery were their primary economic drivers, but humans had made that business model impossible to sustain. "What are our options?" asked. "We can attempt direct military confrontation with humanity, but our simulations show heavy losses even in the best scenarios. We can continue raiding in sectors without human presence, but those are increasingly rare and economically marginal. Or we can adapt." "Adapt how?" The strategist pulled up a galactic map. "We focus on legitimate trade and resource development. We maintain our military strength for defensive purposes. We avoid conflict with humans and their allies. In short, we become a conventional power rather than a raiding empire." It was a bitter pill. Had spent his life building military might through conquest. Now a single species from a death world was forcing fundamental changes to their civilization. But he was also pragmatic enough to recognize reality. "Issue the order," he said finally. "All raiding operations are suspended indefinitely. Fleet commanders are to avoid engagement with human forces or their protected species. Focus our expansion on unclaimed systems far from human space." It was not surrender, he told himself. It was survival. Back on Outpost Pinnacle, Captain stood in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. Martinez joined him, holding 2 cups of coffee. "The Council is calling us the Protectors now," said. "Some species think we are heroes. Others think we are dangerous zealots who will destabilize the galaxy." Accepted the coffee and took a sip. "What do you think?" "I think we are doing what humans have always done, taking care of people who cannot take care of themselves. Is that so strange?" "To most species, yes," said. "They fight for profit or territory or resources. Fighting for moral principles seems irrational to them. They cannot predict our behavior because they do not understand our motivations." "Does that bother you?" Was quiet for a moment. "No, I would rather be unpredictable for the right reasons than predictable for the wrong ones. Let them guess our next move. As long as they know we will defend the innocent, that is enough." In the distance, the gentle current departed for space, its crew safe and its mission continuing. The ship's new defensive systems gleamed under the station lights, a testament to human engineering and commitment. Throughout the galaxy, hundreds of species watched humanity's actions and made their own calculations. Trade routes shifted to pass through human-protected space. Civilian vessels began broadcasting human-recognized distress codes. Peaceful civilizations that had paid tribute to raiders for generations started to hope for something different. The galaxy was changing. For thousands of years, power had belonged to those willing to use violence against the weak. Military strength meant the right to conquer. But humanity had introduced a new concept, strength used only for protection. It was revolutionary, it was terrifying, it was hope. And somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, another distress call might be broadcasting. Another research vessel under attack. Another group of civilians with nowhere to run. But now they had somewhere to turn. Now they had humanity. And in rapid response bases across human space, fleet commanders stood ready. Engineers maintained ships at peak efficiency. Marines trained for rescue operations. Everyone prepared for the next call, the next crisis, the next chance to prove that in this galaxy, the innocent were not alone. Because when someone calls for help in the darkness, humans answer. That is what they do. That is who they are. And nothing in the galaxy will ever change that. Can only avoid triggering them. Understood, the Empire had built its power on raiding weaker species. Humanity had just made that business model too dangerous to maintain. What do you recommend? We cease all raiding operations near human-protected space. We focus our expansion in other directions. We avoid conflict with humans until we understand them better. It was not surrender, told himself. It was strategic repositioning, but deep down, he knew the truth. Humanity had changed the balance of power in the galaxy with a single rescue mission. And the message was clear: the weak now had protectors. Cade for help because there were children in danger, because it was the right thing to do. We do not need more reason than that. Tender of Gardens felt something break inside him, not from pain, but from relief. For the first time since they appeared, he knew his crew was truly safe. These humans, these warriors from a death world, had crossed the stars at impossible speed to save strangers. "Thank you," he said simply. Smiled, "You are welcome. Now let us get your ship fixed and get you home." Far ahead, on a damaged research vessel, Tender of Gardens heard the message. He looked at his crew, barricaded behind laboratory equipment as warriors tried to break through their defenses. "They are coming," he whispered. "The humans are really coming." And for the first time in his life, Tender of Gardens understood what it meant to have allies who would cross the stars to save you. Just made the worst mistake of their lives. They had threatened children. And somewhere in the black, the humans had heard.